Welcome to Developer Service YouTube channel. On this video, we'll be comparing data validation in serialization libraries Pydantic and also Marshmallow. Let's dig into the code. First, we start by installing both Pydantic and Marshmallow with pip install Pydantic Marshmallow. I've already installed it, but you'll need to install it. And now we can take a look at the code and see how do we do data validation with Pydantic and data validation with Marshmallow. Let's start with Pydantic. So we import our base model and we define our schema, or user in this case, which has a field name, which is string, age, which is int, and email, which is string. And we can have the example data of the JSON, which is name, age, and email. And we just pass that to the user class, and then we can print out the user model. If we run, we see that it has converted name to Alice, age to 30, and email to alice@example.com. So now let's see a more advanced example with Pydantic, which we have nested schemas. We first define our address, which is street and city, both string. Then we define our advanced user, which still has the name, age, and email. But now it also has a list of addresses, which is from the previously defined schema. We also define a validator for the age field, which is a field validator, which checks if the age is a positive value. We have our sample data, which has the name, age, email, and also a list of addresses. And of course, we create again an instance of advanced user, and we print out that JSON. Let's see, and you can see it converted the JSON into the schema, name, age, email, and the list of addresses, which is of course an address object by itself. And if we change the date, so the age to -1, for instance, and run again, then you will see that it performs the data validations, stating that the age must be a positive integer as we define in the validator. Moving on to Marshmallow, we import our schema from Marshmallow and we define our user schema based on that. So we have a name, which is a field of type string. We have an age, which is a field of type int, and an email, which is a field of type email. All three of them we define as required. We have our sample data, name, age, and email. So we create a user schema, which is based on the schema that we have defined, and then we can do a schema load with the sample data, and that will create our object, and then we can print that object. If we run the code, we see it has converted the name into Bob, age into 25, and email to Bob at example. Let's now take a look at a more advanced example for Marshmallow with nested schemas and also validation. So as we define our schema, our address schema, which is street and city, as we saw before with the Pydantic example, both of them required. We define our user, and here we're defining a class which has the name, age, email, and address. And the address is a list. We define the string representation of that class, and then we can define our schema. We define our advanced user schema, which has the name, age, email, as before, the required fields, and the addresses, which is a list that can be nested of the address schema that we defined before, and it is required. We define then a validator for the age, which again validates if the age is a positive value, and we have the post load decorator, which actually creates the user object and returns that. We have our sample data, again name, age, email, and then a list of addresses, in this case or just one address in the list. So we define our advanced schema based on the advanced user schema. We load the sample data, and that will then generate the object, and we can print out that object. As you can see, it has converted to a user object, name, age, email, and the list of addresses. And if we change the age to a negative value and we run again, we can see it has output validation errors that the age must be a positive integer as we defined before. So that's how you can perform data validation and serialization with both Pydantic and Marshmallow, two of the most popular libraries. Like this video if you like this content, subscribe for more Python content and Django and AI, and until next time, happy coding!